Well, hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Welcome to my stream and welcome to another chapter. Another chapter working on this guy here. That is our 1/16 scale General Lee by MPC General Lee, of course, from the show Dukes of Hazzard. We're going to run the intro and we'll get started. Okay guys, so we're back, and remember last time what we were doing? We were doing some painting. Did a little bit of painting. We got some things painted different colors and stuff like that, and of course the big one was our inner fender wells. That's all painted up, nice and orange, ready to be installed. With the addition of air horns underneath there. You can see the air horns there. And I got some wiring for them going through there too. Yes, so we've got air horns on our car so that we can have our actual proper sound of the horn, just like the show. Anyway, so that's done. With planes taking off in the background, as they always seem to do, we're going to try maybe get this put in permanently today. We'll see. I need to get, we need to go back a step or 10 and kind of go back closer to the beginning of this, and I think it's finally time, now that I've got my exhaust done, it's time to get the rear end installed. So let's change the camera and let's see what we got to do with that. Alright, let's do this. Okay, so we're going to go all the way back to step number 6, where we put in our, I guess you could say these are the upper shock mounts. Okay, call that the upper shock mount, and our fuel tank. Remember we did that? That's all done here. Okay, that's in here. Our shock mount's in there. As you can see, I got a exhaust pipe in the way here, but we've got that. And of course, I 3D printed my fuel tank to look a lot more realistic and not just a square or what shape you want to call that. Some kind of a NASCAR fuel cell kind of looking thing. I wanted a realistic Dodge Charger looking gas tank, and so that's what I got here. Okay, so we've got that. We've got our shackles. I have that actually installed onto my axle on my leaf springs. Those are installed onto there rather than on here, and that's okay. We already have this all assembled, so that's all done. And so it's time, I think, we can put this in. But of course I have my exhaust pipes. If I have my rear end installed here like this, something like that, how do I get my exhaust pipes through under there? That's going to be darn near impossible, if not actually impossible. So my exhaust has to at least be sitting in place. I have to at least have it already sitting like this. Each pipe. Where's my other pipe? It's over here. It has to at least be sitting in here so that I can do this, and it's already in place, right? So that's something I need to do. Okay. The other thing we need to do is kind of assemble our shock absorbers and get these ready to go in. So part number 147, I have those painted up. They've been sitting ever so patiently. They're painted nice yellow color. Been sitting so patiently for so long to get installed, because, well, as I start doing other things and get involved with other parts and other projects and stuff like that, yeah, these wind up sitting. So then we have our little chrome pieces, number 236, that they don't want us to glue. I don't know why they don't want us to glue it. Well, they want this to be functional of some sort. That's kind of ridiculous. So we're gonna go number 236, and we've got tubing here. I don't know why we've got tubing going to our rear end. I guess that's what these little nubs are for on here. See those little nubs on there? That's to put some tubes on there. I don't know why we've got tubes there. Why would they run tubes to the rear diff? That's a good one. Why in NASCAR, I'm assuming it's NASCAR, why do they run tubes to the rear diff? Are they oiling it, or is it some kind of a vent? That's interesting. Why would they do that? I don't know. I'm not going to bother running tubes. I don't think the General Lee ever had tubes running to its rear diff. I do need to find my chrome parts, though. And I got to find where I put them. They're back here. So we want parts number 236, and of course there's 4 of them, because, well, yeah, because, yeah. You know, I had a coworker who used to say that all the time, because, yeah. Let's get those ready. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, of course, realistically, the real car probably doesn't have 4 shock absorbers on the leaf springs on the rear end, but so for realism, I really should do only 2, but at the same time, I don't think it matters all that much, now does it? I don't think so. Okay, what I want to see is on the rear end here, where those mount. Well, they mount on each side here. Bing and bang. Bing and bang, bing and bang. So let's get rid of the flashing on these. Clean them up. That side's good. So I'll put that end, that side down. And that's going to sit on there like this. Now, of course, these little stumps, this whole piece, this piece here, this is all chrome. So, yes, I've painted it black, but those were chrome. And of course, our little shocks, these, of course, are chrome, and they're going to go in like this. Is it even going to fit? The flash, it's kind of a tight fit because of the, you know, the flashing that they get on these. And of course, by cleaning up the flashing, you wind up scraping away the chrome on these. I mean, yeah, it's not going to matter when it's going into the thing, like this. So that's fine, sure. Okay, flashing on there, gotta go rid of that. Okay, so let's just call that one done. Okay, put you here. I'm gonna have to do this 4 times now. And of course, if I don't do it, it might look a little bit weird. It might look a little incomplete. Okay, there's that one. Let's take you. There you go. Of course, flashing on this one too. Clean that off. There we go. Here's another one. Grab this. There seems to be a lot of flash on this one. Okay, let's grab this. There we go. See if it's in good. And our 4th one. Okay, I think that's good enough. Oh, flashing on here. This end. There we go. Okay. So those are done. I need to make sure that I don't have any chrome on these so that the glue will actually hold on them. So I'm just going to make sure. I think maybe I preemptively took the chrome off of these nubs, but I don't remember. I really don't remember. Of course, I get down, I scrape my primer off, and yeah, so I did take the chrome off of these preemptively. So these are not chrome anymore. So that's good. All right, which means I can kind of put these in their place. Like this and like this. And you see they're really kind of flop around. It's not exactly the most precise fit on them, but at the same time it doesn't really matter. Let's get our exhaust put back in their place. This one, nope, this one. No, nope, that is this side. Like this. And this. Okay. Rear end. Now I was looking at this a few days ago. I actually want to check something here. I'm going to do some measurement here, because I feel like my rear end is not square. We're at 3 1/4 inches on the front, and just over 3 inches on the rear. I noticed this a couple days ago. It lines up at the front here, that's great, that's fine. But at the back, this one lines up with the hole, this one sits way too far in. So now that I've got my shocks in the way, we've got to line this all up. So you're fine, you're fine, you got to come out a little bit. You're not even touching. So you are the one that's causing a problem. Let's get you turned. Okay, so this is almost in there, we're in. But when we look at this side here is right up against the frame, and there's where it's supposed to mount, way out here. It's like this one is just, it's crooked. So I kind of want to put like a spacer in here, something to wedge this out, like this, until the glue sets on it, so that it will stay there proper in its little mount, because this side is perfect, the others are not. So let's get our shocks put in onto their little pegs. Like so. So there's not really much I can do. They say don't glue that, but at the same time, it's like I really should glue it, you know, because it's just going to be hobbling around loose. And of course, if I don't remove the chrome, how do I get it to glue? You know what I mean? So I have to remove the chrome, at least on the shock, or at least where it's going to mount onto the, it's really this is a hokey setup, I'll tell you that. This one we can get on here. Maybe not. Let's do that. Let's get this guy back down in his spot. Or how about on the floor? Hi. Let's try this again. Okay. This one is like, this guy doesn't even know where he's going. This guy. Come on, don't be a jerk. Why are you being a jerk? You don't need to be a jerk about it. Just go down in there. Yes. There. Doesn't really fit that great. And then this one is just kind of flopping around everywhere. See? Just kind of flopping around everywhere. The whole purpose, what I'm doing here, I want this all mocked up so that the shocks are in their place, so I can glue the yellow parts down onto the pegs where they need to be. That's the whole purpose. That's why I'm doing all this like this. You weren't supposed to fall. It doesn't help that, you know, when you're right-handed and when you're left-handed and you're working on the right side, it doesn't help. There. Okay. So that's where they need to be. And that's where my shocks need to be glued in. So I'm going to see if I can get some glue all the way down at the bottom of the shock here and get those shocks kind of put in their spots so their angles are where they need to be. You know what I mean? That's the whole purpose of this, okay? So let's see if I can get in there and get some glue down at the bottom of these. It's not going to work. I can't get in there with my brush to glue that. I need to apply the glue first. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, so change of plans. Change of plans here. We're going to take our little pieces out and I'm going to get rid of the chrome on the insides of these. You go, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to see if I can either get a drill bit that's going to be that size, or maybe even my file, and do that ever so slightly and remove the chrome from the inside of that hole. I know that's going to open up that hole a little bit, but if I can get a little bit of plastic fixed out of there, or, you know, get some plastic exposed, I should say. Come on out of there. Come out of your hole. I say that to my wife sometimes. Don't play with my holes. Okay, there's two done. If you really want to be a pain, I'll just pull the rear end right off. How about that? How about that? If you really want to be a pain, we can do this. I'm not pushing hard, I'm just trying to kind of scrape away the chrome on the inside of the hole. Okay, now I want to find some kind of a wedge to put in here, but not something that's going to actually be vulnerable to the glue, right? You know what I mean? Let's see, I could try some kind of a ball bearing. I could try, let's see what this is like. These things might be too wide. They are too wide. So that's not going to work. How about, nope. See, preferably I'd like something metal. I could use a paper clip. I could bend this in such a way that it's not touching. Let's try that. Let's take pliers. First of all, let's trim this off. do this. Okay, I've got a little wire. Now I'm going to bend this wire. Bend it. This. And if that's too tight of a bend, I can bend, or if it's not tight enough of a bend, I can bend it more. That might be a little too much, but I could maybe just stick it in there and kind of do a wedgie, give it a wedgie. There we go. That might work. Just put that in there. Drop that down in there. That might work. That might work. Okay, let's get our rear end. I'm going to put some glue down in these, and I'm going to let the glue do its capillary thing and just run down the center of these. Lots in there. Because I know the glue is going to run down. I can already kind of feel it working a little bit on these two, not so much on these ones. So we're just going to go on the outside of it just to make sure. Let's get in here, this one. And this one. Okay. Okay, lots of glue on them now. Alright, time for the rear end. Let's get this put back in. Get that lined up. This lined up. Okay, so that's where the rear end's going to sit. I can actually put glue here and here and here and here and here. Get our rear end kind of ready, including this spot here. I need to move that out and then put it back really quick. There. Okay. So our rear end is basically going to be glued in now. This one is the one I'm going to have to deal with in a minute. But our little shocks, before that glue sets up, I need these lined up onto their little homes. There's one. And glue. I could try this, putting glue in the center also where it connects, but because of the fact that these are chrome, they're not really going to get glued in there, but because I've scraped some of that chrome away, that might actually work. We'll see. Let's get this one set up. This guy is almost straight up and down. Too far down. There we go. Glue on there and glue in there. Now if I could get this to look a little more straight, that would be nice. That's not bad. That looks okay. Good. Okay, so let's turn this around. So that I'm still working on the left side, at least from my perspective. Okay. He's on. Okay, perfect. Glue. And glue in the shock. See if I can get that lined up a little straighter. Make it look a little better. Same with you. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, last one. There we go. These guys really sit almost straight up, and which makes the rods look funny. Let's get some glue on him. There we go. So we've got them all glued in now. The last part, the final part, is with this leaf spring mount needs to be brought out away from the frame. You can see how it's sitting right up against the frame here, and it's not where the mount is. So we need to fix that, and that's why I made this little thing to try and wedge it in there. Try and wedge that in there so that I can get this out where it needs to be and sit there like that. Now, of course, I could just glue it and then hold that down, you know, and just let it and hold that down for a couple of minutes while the glue sets, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit here for 5 or 10 minutes waiting for the glue to dry before it holds. I want to put something in here, but of course it has to be metal so that the glue doesn't actually stick to it.
1 hour later.
Okay, so I wound up taking a little piece of styrene that happens to fit, and I've wedged it in there in between. Let's put my mufflers here. I'm going to hold my mufflers down for a sec while I show you. Okay, so I got a little piece of styrene in there. It's not quite sitting on the bottom, but it's on the frame, and so that should not be glued. It should hold. When that glue is cured, maybe in about 10 minutes or so, I should be able to pull that piece of styrene out. So now that's done. Our rear end is glued in. Finally, we have the rear end in. My shocks, or my mufflers, we're going to be doing styrene and get these guys, or not styrene, I'm sorry, lost my train of thought. We're going to be using some CA glue, and I'm going to glue the muffler down to the body, just like that. So what I can do is kind of move this a little bit out of the way, put a little bit of CA glue in there, and then just bring this back and glue it in like that, solid, just like this, in that spot exactly, lining up, well, not exactly that spot, right there. And I can put another piece, another little bit of CA glue on our exhaust tip mount right there. I have reported the spammer. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Finally, somebody reports the spammer. Thank you. That is fantastic. Made my day. Thank you very much. You know, that's the one thing I would say is the most reliable chat is the spam. I can almost, you know, with the exception of my last stream, that's one chatter that comes in every chat, every stream is a stupid spam bots. Okay, anyway, so got some CA glue. We're going to glue this muffler down. I'm going to do that one first, okay? So we're going to move this a little bit out of the way here. Which way is going to be easiest to get? I think like that. Okay, there we go. I can put some CA glue down on my little lines there, and we'll glue this muffler down to the frame. Muffler, of course, the reason why I'm doing CA glue, of course, is because the mufflers are resin, and so because of that, you have to use CA glue on resin. Regular hobby glue just ain't gonna cut it. She ain't gonna work at all. I want to make sure I get a good bond here, so I'm using a little bit more than I would normally, but the nice thing is it ain't gonna be seen, so it's not gonna matter. So just use quite a bit here, get that done. Now I could go so far as to try and get like the line here where this might actually hit or touch or whatever. I can try and get in there where it might, I think it might be touching. It's not gonna really matter though. Once the CA is, oh, don't forget, I gotta do the little spot where the mount is gonna touch at the back here. It's gonna be right about here. Okay, let's put that aside. Let's get this lined up. I'm not going to put it down just yet. We want to have this lined up. There, there, and there's our line up. There's our alignment. Just like that. Go back just a hair. There we go. Before the CA sets. There we go. She's going to set like that. I don't have a lot of contact because it is just because of the nature of where it's going to sit. We're going to sit like this, and I do have a little bit of play in my pipe, so that's good. So even if it's not exact, it's okay. The main thing is I lined it up so that it's against this frame, and that's good. So there we go, it's starting to hold. There we go, guys. We're in, we've got that lined up there, so we're good. Okay, so you can see my pipe is right against my gas tank, so I want to make sure that when I put this one in, I got the exact same thing, or at least close. This one I've got some play, I can do this with it, but it is looking a little crooked. Of course, you're near an airport? That sounded like a jet. Yes, I am right near the Vancouver airport. Of course, Vancouver, Canada. So I'm bringing this over and turn this thing around so you can see now. My exhaust tip here seems to be a little bit crooked, and when I line this up like this, although this pipe is fine, that's great, that's going to be okay. My exhaust tip here is a little wonky, and if I want my pipe to be tight against it like this one is, then I'm going to have to, I might have to break this off of here and redo it, which I think I'm going to wind up doing, because if I bend this, if I keep trying to bend it, it's probably going to crack off. The other alternative, I could heat up the pipe a little bit. I try heating the pipe and bend the pipe. That might be a better choice. Let's see if I can get that. I'm going to grab my torch. Vancouver, I'm an hour from there in Abbotsford. Oh wow. Imperial Hobbies? Yes. Not very often though. Imperial Hobbies, yes, but a lot of times they don't have stock on what I want, so I wind up going to Magic Box Hobbies a lot more often. Okay, so I'm going to heat up this pipe, and I know it's dangerous to just put some fire right in here, but I don't really have a choice now that I've got this all glued in, so it's just the way it is. Let's heat this up. And let's get a bend going here. Yeah, which really did nothing. Let's see if I can raise it up a little bit here. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's just... There we go. Now that's straighter. It's definitely straighter. That's looking a little better. Yep, That looks better. I'm a lot more happy with that the way it is. Now I can glue that in, and if I push it in like this, at least it's you know, in the same spot it needs to be. Okay. Magic Box, haven't heard of that one. Magic Box Hobbies, they are in the Kerrisdale area in Vancouver. It's a couple of nice Asian couple runs that store, and they have a lot of stock. Okay, so this one, we don't have those little lines sticking up here on this one, so this one's going to be a much flatter surface to glue on. And not only am I going to put a little bit of glue here, but I'm going to go glue right against the fuel tank, because that's actually touching back here. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. So let's put some glue here, and we're going to put glue on our tank on the side here where that's going to touch. And now we'll put a bunch of glue down here. I'm going to go right up against the frame here with it. This is probably way more than I need, but at the same time I want to make sure that's going to be held down nice and solid and strong. Well, they no longer have a website. That's frightening. You referring to Magic Box Hobbies or Imperial Hobbies? Because Imperial, I believe, have their website, but I think they're going more on just online ordering now. But Magic Box, they tend to do a lot of stuff on Facebook. They post on Facebook quite often. This one's not quite. I need to. Oh shit! Oh, my muffler's glued in solid pretty quickly. This, however, is not the best. I gotta check my angles here. Yeah, we look okay. Remember my angles that I had on this? Well, now I've got a funky little angle going on here. So my angles are funny and they don't look that great. And unfortunately, with this now glued in, I don't have much choice. I'm going to do a quick little test fit here with my mufflers to see how they are looking when I try and put the engine in. In theory, I should be able to just run those collectors right over those pipes. But if they can't, since I can't, it doesn't really matter too much. They still get it in there and I can get the engine on. And that's good enough. That suits me fine. A little bit of having to pull that in, just a hair, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So there we go. So our exhaust is in, our rear end's in. That I am happy with now. I'm happy with that. I did wind up, I was doing a test fit the other day, and with the engine in place, put that back in there, put the engine back in here. With the engine in place, like this, let's just set them down like that. Okay, with the engine in, we have our drive shaft, and I was like, okay, is the kit drive shaft actually going to fit in this thing? And so I tested it, and you guys may have noticed if you saw my post on online that or on what did I post it? I think on the X just a still shot test fitting. My drive shaft was sitting in here like this, but it's sitting on top of the diff because the kit drive shaft is too long. But so I trimmed off just about the thickness of that flange, okay? Just this flange right there. I trimmed off just about that exact amount and then re-glued this on. And that should fit now. if I move the engine forward just a hair, like this, my drive shaft, where'd you go? Went right here. Put that in the rear end. This is kind of a coordinated effort to do this. There we go. And our drive shaft fits absolutely perfectly. So I got no problem with that. The only problem I do have is which direction does the drive shaft go? I gotta look at that. That too. I'm gonna skip ahead a whole bunch of parts. Drive shaft goes with our slip joint, or whatever you want to call it, to the rear. So the way I have it sitting right now is the way it's supposed to go. Okay. So that's the way that goes. Now, as much as I would like to just, glue the drive shaft in just like that, what happens is, because it's only glued there and it's not glued there, it just is going to make for a very delicate little stick poking out it's definitely going to wind up breaking off on me later. Okay, so we're going to worry about that a little bit later. Now, if I look at the manual, let's just flip this over. I look at the manual and we have a couple of things on the front end that are supposed to go in that I have not yet dealt with. After putting in the rear end and getting this all done, they want us to put in this little cross member here, and whatever the heck this is, I do not know what that part is, but it's there, and they want that going in. So we seem to have a cross member here that I don't see on here. Is that a step that I missed on the front end? It's gotta be. Step number 2, 3, 4, 5B. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. So they're showing this a very strange looking. Let me pull the engine out. Maybe that's what's my problem is here. They show it here, but off to the side. There's got to be something I'm missing here. You know what it is? I'm looking at it upside down. There's my problem. There, fix that problem. So I had it upside down, and that's why. This is supposed to go in underneath here. So we've got this guy. Well, these are like cross braces that are going to go here into here. Okay, so let's do this. Number 128 and 129. Let's find those. 128 and 29. They're over here. And same with our little, looks like an anti-sway bar. I don't know. Some guys call them sway bars. Sometimes they're anti-sway. I don't know. I think anti-sway makes sense. So 128, let's see which is left. Which is left and which is right? The car's upside down right now. That's interesting. So let's take 129 right here. 129. Now let's see. 129 is supposed to be on the right. Now if I flip it over, this is left, which would be, if the car's right side up, that would be the right side. So 129 is the right side. Let's see. We're supposed to go in like this, into that spot there, and then into that spot there. Like so. Okay. So there's that. And we have our sway bar here, which has some nasty little nubs on it. Let's this has been you know, molded in black, then primered in gray, then painted black. These parts have kind of been through the ringer here. Okay, so then this guy is supposed to line up. This is not supposed to go into that hole. There apparently is a hole lower down. Oh yeah, in the front of it. Okay, I see what it's telling me. So this guy is supposed to go, 2 little pegs going on the frame, like this, and goes into these spots here and here. But my little pegs got some flashing on them, so the pegs don't want to go in the holes. So let's see if we can fix that problem. Let's see if we can convince our pegs to go in the holes. It's not a problem I've had very often in my personal life. Fitting the peg in the hole is usually fairly easy to do. Okay, that one doesn't like that hole. Come on out. Come on out. Tight fit. Let's just file that down a little bit. And you gotta file down a little more. How about now? Still don't want to fit. Wow, you're stubborn. You are stubborn. Let's try. I don't want to go too big with the hole because it's really not necessary. I don't want to make the peg so small. There we go. Don't want to make the peg so small that it doesn't fit in there at all. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so that's all in. Great. That's going to be like this. Now this guy, there's a little hole right there on the frame. Right there. See where my fingernail is? Right there. And so that is going to go in there. From this spot. So it goes there. We could actually go underneath this, like that, and like that. And that's how that sits. So I don't think really, I mean, they say one's left, one's right, but I don't think it really matters because you can always just turn it around. I could literally, well, actually it won't fit. No, it would. I could do either one. It won't matter. It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. So then this one goes into this side. I find that hole. Where are you here? Way over here. And put him in a spot like so. And there's all our points. There's our 4 things. So let's get those glued in. Interesting way of having the suspension set up on these cars. It's also interesting that they have all these things in a line and everything like that to do all that, and yet the suspension is movable. Suspension can be moved, right? Can be flexed. Not that you want to now that you've got everything all glued, but yeah. But yeah, this isn't the most exact way to have it all connected either, but it works. So that's all done. I'm still wondering what this part is. Still wondering what this looks like. It's supposed to be a steering shaft, but I mean it looks like a shaft that would be inside the car, not anything else. It's really weird. That's like an extra part or something. They don't show it at all in the instructions. Anyway, that's that. So with that all done, I can't really play around with the front end very much now. But fortunately, it doesn't interfere at all with the engine. What does need to be done though, I was looking at my inner fender well and how this has to go in. And I think I'm going to have to put this in first and then put the engine in after. And I was looking at the radiator and whether the radiator would fit in there or not, and if the engine will fit with the radiator. And they actually have our hole here in our resin kit, and it actually fits absolutely perfectly in there. The rad fits. It's even got the little funny hole there, the cutout for it to fit just absolutely perfect. The only flaw is the radiator in the kit is supposed to go into these two little notches here and here. These two tabs. The radiator should fit right like this. Other way around though, but like this. Radiators should fit just in there like that. Okay, that's where the rad's supposed to go. But if I put this in, let's get this guy in here, get him tucked right in where he's supposed to go. Okay, like so. No, go. There. Kind of tuck under the dash, just a hair. There. Okay, so it's like that. Now, if I put my rad in, I drop it in its slot, it sits too far back. It's sitting too far back. Right? And it doesn't line up. If I do this and I glue it like that, the rad is then sitting kind of at an angle like that, and that's not right either. You can see a little bit on the side here, you see the light. Okay, it's not sitting flush. So I want to have the rad flush up against the front wall like this. And that's where I'm going to have my rad mounted. It's just like that. And it's going to sit like that. So it's not going to sit down in that little channel, those two little slots. I'm going to have it sitting up like that. And that also gives me enough clearance. But if I put the rad in now, I can't put the engine in. I already tried this once. Putting in the engine, having it on my fan winds up hitting the rad, and I can't get the engine in there because the angle it has to go in at, my fan hits the rad. So it's nice that the rad goes in straight, because I can do this with the engine and it's going to fit in there like so. And once it's in, I don't have it in quite correctly right now. Let's see. Let's get this lined up. Get you lined up there and get you in spot. There we go. That's the trick. It's getting it past getting the oil pan past the steering here. Getting the oil pan past the steering. Once it's past the steering, I know I'm in the right spot. Get that down like that. I'll put this on the front so I'm not sitting on the engine. So now the engine's in, and now I can drop the rad in just like so, and she fits. And I've got this much clearance between the fan and the rad, and that's really all I need. It's really all I need. So I think really my next step before I go, because I've now run out of time and I have to go, I think my next step glue this down. Get some glue on that and get my fender well glued in there permanently. I think that's the next thing. Which means getting a bunch of CA glue on our frame where it's touching, going around in all these spots, and especially under the dash here, and getting that glued in. I'm not 100% sure whether the dash, whether this sits like this. I think it's supposed to, I think I'm needing it to sit flush like this, flat with the dash, not under the dash. I believe that's where it's supposed to sit, it's like this. But at the same time, if I do that, it's not really sitting flush on the frame. So I kind of want to put it flush on the frame. Maybe not glue it under the dash, but use the dash as a way to hold it down for me so I can get the glue in there in all these spots where it needs to be. Because where it's sitting now is really where it needs to be. Just like exactly. And that's all I need. So why not? Let's get some CA glue and let's get this thing glued in there. And then I can go. Then I can go. Alright. Use a little flashlight to hold this up. Are you going to hold? No, it weighs too much now. The flashlight won't hold it up anymore. Okay, fine. So we're not holding it up. I'm just going to kind of slather some glue in here on some spots where it's I can see it's connecting, it's touching, especially on the front here. So we'll just dip my little applicator in. Well, welcome back. And let's get some glue put in some spots here. Go around all these little spots that it's touching. And then we'll leave it. And then later I'll come back and I will add some glue to where it's touching on the dash. Another thing I'm going to do is I'll come back in later and touch up the spots where the CA glue is and get rid of that nice glossy CA glue look, so I maintain the flat black appearance. I think that's about it. A little bit here on the where it's touching the door frame. Okay. That about sums it up. She's touching everywhere, and so that's where the frame is everything, and that's where the CA's glue is holding. I mean, I could put a little piece of styrene in here and fill that gap, and I could glue that in, but I don't think that's going to be necessary really. Maybe above here where it's touching the transmission hole a little bit. I was searching for the word in my mind. Transmission hump. That's what I was looking for. Transmission tunnel. That's another possible name for it. I think part of it is really touching where my carpet is from the inside. Alright, there we go. Okay, so with that done, we're going to let that cure. Although it's CA glue, so it's only going to be a few minutes for that to cure. One final thing before I go. It's time to put the roll bar in. I got the roll bar painted, and I got that mocked up. That's all ready to go. We got to put our roll bar in, and she's going to mount just ahead of the rear seat in this little spot here. She's kind of touching up against our door frame. There we go. Because of the contour. Now I want to make sure it's straight, and I also want it straight up and down, like so. So kind of using the door panel as a reference for it being straight up and down. That looks pretty good as it is, just like that. I think I'm just going to glue it right up against the door frame, or the door panel. I think is going to be our best bet. Let's push it down and make sure it's down low enough, and we'll glue it in. Using the capillary action of our Tamiya Extra Thin. Glue that in like that. I know the kit would have you glue it to the floor, but because of my carpet, she's not going to glue to the floor. So there you go. Okay, need to lurk and deal with adulting. Thanks for the fun. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so there we go. My roll cage, or roll bar, I keep calling it a roll cage because, well, habit. Habit is calling it a roll cage, but there it is. Okay, so thank you, airplanes. Airplanes always taking off, especially when it's cloudy out and the planes get louder. That's just the way it is. So we got quite a bit done today. It feels like we're getting somewhere. I think I need to focus a little bit more on my trunk and get the trunk stuff ready. As you guys know, I've got my trunk lid. Got some putty in there, still working on that. Putty's got to dry, got to harden, I got to file, I got to sand that putty down and make it smooth, all that stuff before this is ready. And then of course I've got my front fenders. I still have to work on these a little bit before I'm ready to carve them out and get those ready to be the shape as the rear fenders. My front ones are still, so they're still not ready. Let's put it that way. They're not ready yet. So yeah, that's that. So like I said, I've got to get going. So this is where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. I want to say thank you for watching and thanks for joining me on this long journey. And don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the links in my description box below, where you see some links to my Twitch and my Instagram. Every build that I do, I take a bunch of pictures of it afterwards, and I show it up on. Let me say this again. I take some pictures and I upload them to my Instagram, and sometimes I do to my X channel too. But I'm not as active on my X channel, but I'm a lot more active on the Instagram. So anyway. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for the support and thanks for the chat. And we'll see you all in the next one.